and welcome from Guadalajara, Mexico to this episode of Crossing Borders with Nathan Lustig. Nathan's guest today is Luis Rubén Chávez, founder and CEO of Zenfi, the first all-digital full finance platform focused on financial health for Mexico.
Welcome, Luis Rubén. Thanks for taking the time to do it.
Thanks, Nate, for the invitation.
So tell me a little about Zenfi.
So Zenfi, we're building the first full digital, full banking platform for Mexico towards financial health. We believe that financial health is one of the biggest constraints to achieve, philosophically, if you will, freedom or liberty as a human being. And as you know, the financial sector in Latin America is super inefficient and abusive because of how concentrated it is. So we're trying to figure out how to crack this problem by giving people tools to enable them to build a consistent plan for the long term, building financial health in basically 5 pillars: spending, saving, credit, investing, and planning for the future. And we're trying to build that all inside the same product in a platform that basically takes you to a very in a very pragmatical way how to achieve all those 5 steps towards that. Yeah.
So what does the product do for users today? What can they do on there?
So we said this is like a broad vision. What's like the killer MVP or the killer feature we could bring to get some traction and awareness for Zenfi? And we started with credit score check for free. We've been in the lending business now for roughly 10 years now, and we figured out that this awareness of building credit scores and building your credit story, it's like a black box for millions of people. Lots of people think that credit bureau here in Mexico is like a blacklist from the government or something like really bizarre thoughts around the market. And that we said, if we just can nail a feature that brings a lot of users and we'll start building from there a financial health path. And we said, this is like the best way to get awareness of people on how they are building their story. And since the access to this product is like very narrow and the UX and the experience is super bad here in Mexico, we said this is it, and it's working like really good.
So talk a little bit about kind of the misconceptions of credit scoring in Mexico for most people, because many of the listeners are from the US and they're used to getting their FICO, or they're used to being able to check their credit score whenever they want and see how it moves and get advice and all that sort of stuff. But in Latin America, like you said, it's a much bigger black box.
Yeah.
For example, in Chile, it's only negative things on your credit score. There's nothing positive. So you could have 20 accounts, pay 19 of them 10 years in a row, never miss a payment, and then you forget about one or you move away, and that's the only thing you see on there. What does it look like in Mexico?
So yeah, it's roughly the same. It's really bizarre. I'll give you one takeaway. The credit bureau in Mexico is owned by banks, actually. So that drives to a big conflict of interest. The product is like technologically, it's like really scrappy. And some banks and some financial institutions do exactly the same. They only report like negative marks, and that basically constrains people to actually build a better credit score. And the other thing is that the data on the credit bureaus is like really messy. I believe and it's not because of them, because all the infrastructure is really bad. And financial institutions have this conflict of interest on trying to build better data, because roughly 5% of the 5 biggest banks in Mexico have roughly 80 to 85% of the consumer portfolio in the country. So that drives to lower competition. So it's really interesting and a huge opportunity to build on towards that.
One of the things that's really interesting about Zenfi is that one of your pillars of the business is lending. And one of the things that's really cool about the business is that you're very transparent about your numbers. Most of them are on the website, and it's really cool to see, and you can track it over time. So give us the highlights of some of the top line numbers of things that you've done today in terms of users, in terms of amount lent, all that sort of stuff?
So roughly in the whole Zenfi platform, we have roughly 2.5 million users that have come to the platform, both to get their credit scores or get a loan or try to invest in the platform. And out of those 2.5 million users, we have already disbursed roughly $70 million in loans, all unsecured. 70% are used for debt consolidation. So what we have done is with those 70 million disbursed, we have accrued savings on interest for our users on the debt consolidation part of around $25 million. So that's like a huge impact here. What we saw is that debt consolidation could be like a huge product here in Mexico, because the average interest rate in Mexico for credit cards or personal loans is roughly 55% plus fees. So take APRs of around 70%. Another interesting fact is the biggest, most widespread credit card in Mexico, the blue one for the bigger bank, has an APR of 3 digits, roughly 110%. So, and that's like the number one credit product in Mexico. So that gives you a sense of the opportunity to build products towards that. And we said, hey, let's focus our lending efforts with this product that has a very good impact in people's finances towards financial health. And since we basically take you from the same debt to lower interest, the portfolio performance has been like really, really strong. Roughly 4% of the whole portfolio goes to default. So you had a repaid rate of 96%, 97%. And doing this on this business model has allowed us to deliver like the lowest interest rates for credit you can get for a non-secured personal loan in Mexico, and do it online. So, and on the credit score part, we just released this a couple of months ago, and it's going really, really good. We haven't spent one cent in customer acquisition. It's going 100% organically, and we're about to hit 200,000 users of the platform. Everybody's loving it. And what we said is we are sitting on this huge opportunity because we have this massive user database of people looking for financial services online. We should like spread our wings and try to go further than lending. And this is what we're trying to do with Zenfi, and help people not just get the credit part, also tackle all the other pillars of personal finance that we just talked about. Yeah.
So we'll dig a little deeper into the platform in a little bit here, but tell me a little bit about your background. You had a kind of a circuitous route into starting a company. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I was like the epitome of a Godines, as we told here. I studied finance here in Guadalajara and went to work towards the financial system. So I worked there for roughly 8 years. And I said, like, hey, I've been already 8 years part of the problem, and I want to be part of the solution, right? And witnessing like first-handedly, just because of lack of information and access to financial products digitally, people like take bad decisions. We said we're going to have like 2 big challenges. First one is building the product itself, and the second one is building awareness of it, right? But we're starting to see this huge shift. I think A16Z had this blog on like the 3 important things for fintech to grow in Mexico or Latam. And you have this infrastructure play that's going on with this fintech law, this open banking, like things that are about to move on. Then you have distribution. Mexico is one of the biggest countries in the world with more Facebook users, for example. So you have this very deep penetration for digital channels. And the third one is regulation, because regulation in Mexico is permissive, but it's very strict in terms of protecting the user. So you have these 3 sets of opportunities going at the same time. So we said this is maybe too early because we started this a couple of years ago, but the shift is going there, and we believe that these are the three main factors which is driving this huge explosion of fintech movement here in Mexico and Latam. And the other one is that the market is so broken and is so bad for consumers that the opportunity to ripe this market is just huge.
One of the things that I think blew my mind and I think is really interesting when non-Mexicans come to look at startups or invest in Mexico is the mismatch between the interest rates and what people actually pay.
Yeah.
So for me, it was crazy to see big chunks of people paying 50, 60, 70% interest, but paying like somebody who might have a 15 or 12 or 10% interest in the US. And it seems to me that many of the loans that people take out are people with higher interest rates moving into something that actually is the right interest rate based on a risk-adjusted basis. And you're kind of squeezing some of that inefficiency out of the system. So how do you think about that, and how do you think about growth?
Yeah, so I believe that like the main reasons for that is, as we said, the market is so concentrated that it drives to two things. First of all, there's zero incentive for competition among banks. They're making a killing business here in Mexico. I believe Mexico is like the best region globally for a couple of global banks. This is where they make most of their money. And the other one is it drives to adverse selection because banks basically take all the good clients out of the market. So all these other companies just have to figure out how to take customers with maybe worse products that in riskier profiles. So that drives to our adverse selection. And the moment you get a different value proposition in terms of product, people say, I didn't know this existed. If I have known, or if I had these tools or these different products, I have switched like instantaneously. And most of our customers now come through referrals. We have a referral program in the platform, and that drives a lot of traffic to our services. And the way I see this is, as a bank or as a financial institution, you have like 60 or 70 different products in your portfolio of products for users, right? You have credit, SME lending, you have trust, you have insurance, you have checking accounts. And basically banks are very good at some products, very bad at others, and just medium or average at roughly any other product. So as a fintech company, the opportunity is like to double click on the products that you believe that you can do like 10x better than the banks. In terms of user experience, that everybody talks about user experience, but when you get into financial products, you have to actually have a better financial product, right? It's not the UX. So this is why our product has worked like really, really good on the lending part, because the product is like so different of what you can get on the banks financially, and the user experience is so good. And it has took us years to refine that product, but now it is at a point of it's now organically growing. And the interesting thing is that with all the products we are building in the Zenfi platform, we are driving people towards getting a credit or taking out a loan that they didn't know about. They just came in for credit check or for other features that we are building around the platform, and now they are taking out loans. So this is the thought that we said. The product is already there. Now the goal is to explode in distribution, and you can keep like growing, paying the Google or Facebook tax. Yeah, that would take you some part of the way. But if you want to really build a solid company that doesn't have this dependency on these kinds of advertising platforms, you have to do it yourself. And being Mexico like a huge sea of opportunities to build distribution channels, we said let's build it by our own, and it's working like really good.
One of the other things that I think is really cool about the product is that you if the user doesn't fit in your loan criteria, you work with many of the other tech companies and tech lenders in the region, neobanks, to find the right product for the person, and including other products. Talk a little bit about why the marketplace piece is so important.
Yeah, it's uncanny that Mexico is a 130 million people market, and there doesn't exist a Credit Karma or a lending tree here, right? And this has to do something because of the credit bureau thing we already talked about. So we said, listen, if we have this huge lending operation and we reject a fair amount of the loan applications we receive, we started working with other lenders and say, hey, I have already profiled this customer. I have all the data. You need to like pre-approve it like on the spot. Would you like me to refer those clients to your platform? And roughly 12 or 13 online lenders said yes. And we said, that was one of the insights to build the Zenfi marketplace. We said, like, distribution for loans digital is completely broken. If we can build this referral business that we start doing organically, if we can productize this into a bigger platform, it's going to work. So we said we have to build the Credit Karma for Mexico from scratch, right? And as soon as we started doing this, the partners we have already for our current lending business started like jumping in the platform, and a lot of new ones started jumping in. We said, so the marketplace has to expand rather more far away than lending. And we started trying insurance. It started working. We started doing mortgage. It started working. We started doing credit cards. It started working. So the whole thesis of building like the Mexican Credit Karma started going really, really well. And having this monetizing product via lending, this is why we believe we are in a really sweet spot to build a personal finance platform, not just referring users to different services, but actually doing some business with a lot of users within our own reach with the products we already have, name it as lending or investing or something like that. And we said, now that you have built the confidence around the user, because everybody's saying like, hey, I already took a loan or invested through your platform. Now I want to give me some advice on where can I invest, or where can I open an investment account where I can put some money on ETFs, or how can I get crypto? Which platform do you recommend? Which do you believe is like the best checking account here in Mexico? We said we are getting all this feedback from users in terms of they need a bigger picture for building their personal finance plan for the long term. We said let's just build it by ourselves, going by one by one. And I believe that this hybrid approach of distributing your own products and building a marketplace with just the best fintechs in Mexico is going to be like a really interesting thing, because I believe access is already there in the market, but for users it's very hard to get what are the best deals I can get and how do I keep track of all my accounts. And this is where Zenfi comes in.
One of the things that maybe longtime listeners of the podcast will remember is that one of the first waves of fintechs in LATAM was everyone was trying to be the mint.com of LATAM. They're trying to do personal finance managers, the PFMs. There was basically at least one for every country. And as far as I can tell, nobody was successful. Many people pivoted to neobanks. Other people pivoted to open banking, all different sorts of things. And I think there's a video of me talking about this in 2017 is basically the reason why that didn't work is that the banks didn't care.
Correct.
They would not pay for clients. Nobody cared because they already have huge concentration. I remember pre-pandemic, one of Mexico's banks had a 50% return on equity. And the US, it's like 3 or 4 is really good, right? So it's way out of line with what developed markets are getting. In Europe was like, you're lucky if you get one. And so there was no incentive. And so those PFMs like Mint.com in the US, they make tons of money referring credit products and bank products. But in LATAM, no one would pay anything. They'd pay tiny amounts. I remember we invested in a mortgage company in Chile back in 2014, and you actually got paid more for opening up the checking account for the person that was required to have a checking account at that bank than actually originating the mortgage because they just didn't care.
Yeah.
And so the huge change that's happened in the last 5 years with the fintech revolution in LATAM is every startup is fighting like crazy for clients.
Yeah.
And so they actually do care. They want to compete. There's actually VC money behind it to pay for acquisition, and they'd rather pay you than pay Google.
Correct.
Right? Because you're bringing a real ready to sign client rather than somebody who's coming in through the Facebook funnel.
Yeah. And the other thing that complements that on building a PFM is that unit economics are tough. So what you see, for example, Intuit buying Mint and then buying Credit Karma, it makes a ton of sense because everybody is pointing towards financial health in my point of view, because financial health works like to build context on the lifespan of every user, because maybe you can take out a loan like now, but 2 years from now you're gonna need the mortgage. And if I build a platform that gives me these data points that you're about to get married or look for a mortgage, it's right in the same app. And this monetizing strategy is what I believe is lacking in a lot of PFMs, because you drive this massive user base, but economically wise, I don't know, it's just a good business by itself. And the other thing is that there was no competition. So as you said, banks weren't aware of building digital channels and they were spending all their money in new branches and physical locations.
I'll be harsher than that on the banks. I think they knew, they just didn't care.
Yeah.
They knew they were making so much money that it's like, why am I going to pay some startup a portion of my money when they're going to have to come into my branch anyway? Because I think your stat was 4 or 5 have 80% of the market in Mexico. Yeah. Colombia, it's 2. Wow. Chile's, I think, 4.
Okay.
So you're extremely, extremely concentrated, and it's like, why would you even bother trying to recruit from all these other ones when you're just going to have, So, and I think that the key thing that you're finding and you found with Zenfi is that you can have the functionality of a PFM, but you're going to make all the money from all the other products, and you have to have lending. And one of the people who's active in LATAM is Shu from SoftBank, and he's always tweeting about the future and the winners of LATAM are going to be the ones who know how to do credit and know how to do lending. Because as much as you do in fintech, lending is where you make all the money.
Yeah. 70% of the revenue for banks come from lending. It's like really natural. And I believe that's a dangerous approach on all these neobanks, that they just have like the payment business and they are relying on interchange rate. As soon as that gets more competitive, they're going to start suffering. And so you have to build a complete set of features so that the user sticks with you and that economically it makes sense. And couple that with the things that you have this new regulation that is driving open banking, that is going to put like a really good spotlight on the industry itself for financial services. And banks, maybe they were not incentivized enough. Now they're going to be forced to do it, but because now the users will have the prerogative to share their financial data with other institutions. So we are like 2 or 3 years ago from this being like a reality. So we are in a pivotal point to building the products and be like the first movers on these things. But I believe in 5 years, we're going to see a completely different financial system that we have right now.
What books, blogs, podcasts, or documentaries do you like, whether it's about startups or just life in general?
I consider myself a libertarian. And right now I'm trying to understand how all these new trends in fintech, meaning open banking, crypto, financial, digital access to these products, is going to change the way people think about money. So I take a lot of reading and research around that. Business-wise, the book that opened my mind was the Everything Store, the history of Amazon, on how, I think Naval tweets about this, how compounding, like if you do the same thing for a couple of years, how it starts compounding, and this approach of Amazon of just starting building books towards now being the biggest distributor of internet infrastructure in the world. It just happened like this morning. AWS was collapsed and half the internet wasn't working. But having this big picture of how can I work my way around and build a huge company by just doing this and started compounding around that. I really like that book. And blogs, I read a lot about fintech and startup advice. I have read like 3 times the Paul Graham blog post by itself. So yeah, I believe that there's huge amounts of information that we can now, that our biggest work now is not just to read, rather than to edit what you want to read, right? Because there is a lot of information right now. And just like doing a narrow list of people you follow on Twitter, and that gives you like plenty of info.
Yeah, I think compounding is one of the most important things for founders to understand, because it's not just about money. It's your culture compounds, your team compounds,
right.
Everything does. And I saw a tweet, I think today or yesterday, that we'll try to find and link in the show notes, but it was something like Warren Buffett has made $85 billion in his lifetime, but like 83 and a half was made after he was 50.
Yeah.
And like, I think it was 84 out of 85 or something like that, or maybe a little bit less, was made after he was retirement age, because of the compounding effect. And it's just incredible how that works. So yeah, it's really important. If you could go back to when you were first starting the business, knowing everything you know today, what advice would you give yourself?
I believe that the biggest thing that I have learned these couple of years is you don't understand how important it is to build a good team around you. And because being a founder will take you just like so far. But if you build a good team around you, you compound the interest and the knowledge and the skills of everybody. And if you have this like laser focused vision of or where you want to take the company and do it like with a really, really good team, put them in the same ship as you with stock options and a good compensation plan, and build a team that rather that all think the same, they complete like the way they think about by building a cultural backgrounds and the way they think is really important. And the other one is that never underestimate the power of put a lot of attention on the user by itself. I think that as soon as your company starts scaling, you have less time to focus on and talk to the users. And when you're trying to solve like hard problems, you have this temptation of thinking you are really smart because you are scaling. And as soon as you forget that the users are the ones that are having the problem and it's not you, or you start to lose ground. We have this product discipline in the team, in which every 15 days we gather and see the data of how the cohorts of users are going and what are the feedbacks we're receiving. We are constantly like creeping in Facebook groups to see what people are talking about us, and I believe that has taken us to build a really successful business on the lending and investing platform we are driving at Yo Te Presto, and roughly most of the insights we developed towards building Zenfi came from users. So building a great team and never stop exploring and listening to users would be like the most important things, I would say. And the third was like be really smart on the business associates and investors you are willing to take into your company, because this is going to be a 10, 15 year endeavor, and you don't want to be like putting more pressure that you need because you are in a bad relationship with investors or stockholders. So we have had the privilege of working with super good investors from Guadalajara, and Mexico City, and a couple of investors of other countries, and it's been really interesting to see how the power of good investors help you like put yourself in the right place, aim yourself for bigger goals, and rather than be concerned of your investors, like know that you can rely on them. Yeah, it's really important. Yeah.
And what does the future look like for Zenfi?
So by 2024, we're going to be a 30 to 40 million user platform. I have no doubt. And if we can make a dent on this financial industry just by allowing people to build a path toward financial health, I believe we're doing a really good job in building a great business along with it.
Well, it's an amazing goal, and I hope you get there, both as just someone who wants to see impact be made and change be made in fintech and the financial system in LATAM, and also as someone who's invested in the business. We want to see you do well. So thanks for taking the time to do the podcast. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.